Welcome to another instructional video with RC Guy Garage. Part 1.
Yeah, it sure does look like we've got an open, empty spot on deck right now, but that's because we're going to be looking at that thing right there. The ARRMA KRATON, EXB with a diff failure. So, something actually came by, I call it MedFlight. Came by MedFlight in the mail. This was literally like, if you could get same day shipping, that's probably literally what this was. So, in case you're not aware, this is actually what's called a diff locker. This poor thing right here suffers from a little bit of a problem in that area right there. So anyways, if you are at all interested in watching this episode from RC Guy Garage, you, like I always say, you already know what to do, so let's just rip into it. Right there. We'll drag this bad boy kind of like right into position right here. Back on the KRATON EXB, we do have to access the rear differential, and yeah, so, alright, right here, hopefully, hey, look at that, perfect. Yeah, basically I gotta access this rear section of the differential. So I got some screws and stuff I gotta take off. I do need to pop this out. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, something that had happened was I did this bash session with the differential that's in there. And it actually ripped for quite a while. I went through 2 battery packs without issue. Well, the second battery pack was when I started exhibiting issue. And I just, kind of out of annoyance, I just took the RC and I, set it aside. I was having issues with my Mac and I ended up erasing the footage. So, I have no footage explaining or showing how well that this EXB did with the Mojave Mojave diff. So, anyways, that's like my excuse for why I've got nothing. So, we're going to rip this apart. I don't even know what's going on with this thing. I do know that it's got some kind of an issue. I just don't know what the issue is. Ripping into this thing. I do have to remove the 2 back screws right here, just so I can pop the wing up. Basically, all that does, it just allows me to kind of force the wing up so that I can get to all these other screws. I won't have to take these screws out because that's just what's holding up or holding in the bar. But there are screws actually underneath that I need to get. And there are 2 screws, one on each side right here, which is obviously a different bit. I forget. I think I need to take out those 2 screws right there. So I need to use a pick out all the dirt. And then I can use the driver, switch out to a bigger bit. I think, yep. So that was like that. And then I can take these pins out. Just to get the arms kind of out of the way. Dog bones out of there. There is a larger end and a smaller end on these dog bones. Obviously, the larger ends go to the wheels, the smaller ends go to the diff. So now, I'll just flip this back. And now, make sure that that wing is up. I can go after these bolts right here. These 2 here. When I go to put it in, I'll put it in by hand. Make sure you don't strip out your nuts and bolts. Now, I just have to get a small little driver and get into the little sway bar end link And I can't remember which one it is. It's either this one or the other one. And it's that one. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that almost feels like there's nothing there. So, I don't know what's going on with that sway bar. I'll have to check that out. And I thought it was the small one. Not finding anything in there. Oh, it's there. Must have been like a piece of dirt or something blocking it. So anyways, you can see my diff. You can see how the grease basically works. This is that orange grease. It's extremely slick. That's why I use it. It literally coats and it stays coated like all over the gears. That's why I use that particular grease. That is this stuff right here by Permatex. And this is a ceramic extreme brake parts lubricant. And so far, every single diff that I come across, when it's this particular situation with a ring and a pinion, this is the stuff that I'm going to use. So, RC Guy Garage recommends this. All right. So where are we? So now, getting this diff out is a little bit of a pain in the neck. But there we go. And what's going on here? So there is a shim on that side. Yeah, I think, based upon the profile of the gear, it almost looks like... Ah, I did! So that's what happened. I actually broke teeth on this ring gear. So that's what happened. The ring gear got annihilated. You can see it's got a flat spot right there. Now you see how it's like, see how it's got like that, see how it's got like a sheen on those gears? That's indicating those teeth broke off. Make sure you're wearing gloves whenever you're dealing with any kind of, you know, solvents and greases and all that other stuff. It's definitely the better way to go. Yeah, look at that. See the flat spot? See how it's shiny? Oh, it's shiny on that side too. Oh no, it's shiny everywhere. Yeah, so I guess that's what happened with that. Dang. All right, well, again, like I said, make sure there's probably going to be teeth in here. And, yep, I can feel it. Right there, there's one. Yeah, here's a piece of tooth right there. See that little black thing on my finger? That's a piece of tooth. So this differential has to be completely cleaned out. So, now I'm going to take that differential case completely out. So this is going to have to be all totally cleaned out. This is obviously from the, yeah, whatever it's from. This is from my ARRMA MOJAVE. So, it did get destroyed, man. Ah, what a bummer. It actually still runs, too, which is crazy. I got to take off shock tower brace. That way I can just gain a better access, not having all this wing and suspension and all that junk in the way. And I'll show you how to do that. I'm just going to basically just pull this off. It's, effectively, it's just it's a long screw that goes through the center support brace to like a plate that connects to this. It's like, it's all integrated. You'll see what I'm talking about. So I'll turn it to the side here. Hopefully we can, hopefully you can see what's going on. I need another one of my parts trays here, so I can throw all my stuff in it for now. So all these screws belong to this thing. So I'm basically just going to turn it like this. And that's the screw right there that I'm going after. So that is going to be, I think, from the other side. Yep. So I'll spin this around. Get you from this side. Basically going after this bolt right here. And it's not that one. It's this one. So this goes to the chassis brace. I think I called it a center brace. Goes to the chassis brace, which basically goes to the tower-to-tower brace, which I think is more like a center brace. So that should be all set. Just pull that out. These little spacers off. I need to get this up a little higher. It's a little better. Allow that wheel to droop out of the way. And I think this is also a single bolt that goes all the way through. Kind of is like gets stuck by the body brace here, but I think I can just get by it. So then I'll get something to grab a hold of that screw, be able to pull that screw right out. I think I can just grab it, yank it out. There we go. So you can see that it's actually a little bit longer in size than the other one. The one that goes with these little shims, obviously one shim goes on one side, another shim goes on the other side. The shim that's bigger actually goes on the right side, the shim that's smaller goes on the left side. And that's the screw for that. Then this screw right here attaches the rest of the wing right in and through, and you should be able to pull this wing right out of there. Oh, and I lost something. What did I lose? Something popped out. And it's probably gone forever, but it's not. So what it was a little nylock. So right in the wing, right there, you can see there's a little nylock hole. So that popped out. So you can see there's one there and there's one there. Fortunately, I was actually able to find it. So we'll set that aside. Now we can go down on the top. Right here, you can see there's actually a screw right there, and there's one on the opposite side. We'll go after those ones right now, which is probably the other driver. And of course it is. So what this is going to do, this is going to release, basically it's what's attaching this like support brace or this plate. I guess you could call that a plate. It's attaching that plate to the actual top of the diff. So we'll take that screw out. Again, like I said, there's another one on the opposite side. Go after that one. So you can see those ones right there. Now, there's two screws on this back side that are right there and right there. Those want to come off. And then I believe this whole like section should kind of like come out of the way. That is going to be this one. And I should just use my driver. And it's not that. Now this whole thing you can see kind of just flops away. Alright, so that takes care of that. This is part of the suspension. That's all separated. Now what we need to do is go after the two screws that are underneath here in order to basically slide the rest of this away. So there's two more screws underneath, which I actually think now I can get it with this. As long as they're not junked up with dirt, and which it is. Alright. So you can see that's all what I call junked up with dirt. I'm going to take my pick, get in there, get that dirt out of there. Watch your ears, people. Chalkboard sounds here. Now I can just go ahead and Now when I do this other one, I'm actually going to have my hand on the diff because the diff is going to want to pop away. Alright, so now I could just flip this over and basically just take this whole unit and slide it right out. Just like that, see? That way that stays all together like that. And yeah, time to clean this bad boy. So it looks like the Mojave is going to get itself a new ring and pinion. It's earned its ring and pinion. Paper towels are definitely your friend in this situation. Clean all this junk out of here. We don't want any of this old grease in there. Now's also the perfect time to kind of just clean stuff up too while you're right here. Now there's an individual called Basher Queen, and if I were you, I'd start paying attention to her channel, because if you haven't, or if you're not familiar with her, she's being extremely innovative in the hobby. And if you start paying attention now, you might learn a thing or two. So basically now what I have to do is I do have to now take out this gear right here, because this gear is actually from my Mojave. So I am going to pop this off just like that, and that should pop off. Just need to get a screwdriver in there, just like this right here, and I should be able to pry that off just like that. And that will allow me to basically take that pinion and push it out. So all of this needs to be like totally cleaned out. And it'll also give me a chance to at least inspect this gear itself. And remember to wear gloves. You don't want this stuff on you. But it'll give me a chance to at least take a look at this gear and make a determination whether if this thing needs to be replaced, which, man, you know what? Yeah, it does. It's got a sharpness to it. So it did get worn out. It almost looks as though, yeah, you know what? I'm almost betting this gear could have used a shim to push it out to mesh better with the ring gear. So this might be a throwaway and order up a, like I said, order up a new pinion and a new ring gear for my Mojave, because this literally is, like I said, this is out of my Mojave. So it looks like the KRATON did a good job beating up the old Mojave differential, which was technically my fault. So can't blame anybody but myself. There are two bearings here. There's an inner bearing, which is that one right there. There's an outer bearing. It's obviously easier to go from the back side and very carefully push out the outer bearing. Just work its way side to side, just to push that little bearing out, just like that. Don't use a large amount of force. Put that in there. Then you can go this way and push out this bearing, which, if I can show you this way, take that set screw off of there. That might help. See? Push, push. And then hook it, pull it out. And there we go. So now I can go ahead and completely clean this whole thing. The gears and stuff, the pieces, most likely were stuck down in the channels right here, but you still have to completely clean this and this section of the case, which Thought I saw like piece of gear, but so I just basically just take a paper towel, get the majority of it out of here. Then you take this and just stick it in the dishwasher. Don't stick it in the dishwasher. I'm only kidding. Jeez. Oh! Pretty sure bearings are going to be mint. So I'm not going to bore you with how to clean this. I will just be back with a completely cleaned differential and bearings ready to maybe reinstall back into this KRATON EXB. So I'll be back. Thumbs up. All right. All right, so now we're settled onto this. You can see these parts are absolutely clean. The only thing I'm probably going to do is just hit it with a little bit of wind or heat. Most likely I'll hit it with heat because I did introduce soapy water just to get, you know, everything just nice and clean, and that's just how I chose to do it. So inside this bag right here, this is pile of EXB. So this was essentially what was taken off between yeah. You can see right there, pile of parts. Now, most of these parts I'm actually not going to need anymore. The only parts in reality that I'm going to need is I'm going to need this. I'm obviously going to need the 4 screws that go to that, which is already one in there. So 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and apparently one's missing. Isn't that awesome? Are you kidding me? 1, 2. Check this bag. So somehow I'm missing one of my... Oh, there it is. Never mind. It's just my eyes. I'm blind. So I'm going to need, obviously, that, which is the actual housing, or the differential, with its 4 little screws. And then basically, really nothing else other than the cups, which are going to be that. The pins. Just 2 pin... Oh, there goes the O-ring. Welcome to Disaster Garage. The diff is going to be dry. So it's not like I'm going to need like anything else. I mean, obviously, yes, I'm going to need like the bearings, you know, stuff like that. But essentially, I'm locking this differential. So the minimal parts needed are basically next to nothing. I'm not even going to need these pieces of garbage here. These, whatever it is, these sun gears. I'm not going to need these anymore. So because I'm essentially locking this entire system using this right here, and I'll show you how a locker works. In case you don't know, the pin will obviously slide in, right? Then this locker is actually installed. That pin will slide into there. There is going to be the very slightest amount of play. That pin will slide into there. And then basically, that's what you're looking at right there. You're basically looking at something that is completely locked. So, yeah, that's it. And obviously these bearings will ride on the outside of the case because it still needs the case. This still needs to rotate. You know what I mean? Because this is basically inside of this. So, but that's essentially, yeah, that's essentially what it is. So we'll just get to like putting this together. You know what? I'll just like, yeah. I'll just show you real quick. All right? Because depending upon how this locker is, it seems as though, so it seems as though the locker might need to just have a little bit of, let's see. So if I install this in there, oops, there goes the O-ring. So obviously with installing this inside, put the bearing on. It's all still the same process. Put that in. I'm going to take my O-ring, I'm going to stick it in there. Just because I don't want fluid actually getting inside of here, because this diff is supposed to be run dry with this locker. So that's the recommendation. So I'm going to toss that O-ring into place. Hopefully that's settled down. I'm going to take my shim, large one, first. And place that in. Take a small shim. Place that in and on the shaft. Now what I want to do is locate obviously the hole. I'm going to take my pin, slide my pin into the hole, then align the actual cup, and I want to slide the pin in. The only thing is you got to make sure that these washers are pushed down in order to get that pin actually in, because otherwise it won't go. So there we go. Now, the fun part is getting that pin to go into the shaft. So it's actually there. Now just take a driver and push it through. You can see inside of there, you can see how that pin is kind of in there. Lighting is kind of terrible. Now this is where the locker comes into play. As far as the locker goes, doesn't matter which way you put the locker in. There's no like really up or down. You're just going to place the locker in, and technically you just rotate the pin until the locker drops down. So that looks like it's pretty, that's pretty flush right there. There is going to be a little bit of movement, but that's just pin movement. So leave that like that. Then on this side, we'll do the same thing. Put the O-ring, okay? Put the O-ring on there. Put my bearing on. Slide this piece in, which of course is going to push the O-ring off. But I think you get the idea. Then I'm going to take my large washer, take a small washer. I'm going to attempt to throw the pin in right now. Make sure that that's settled down. Take my pin, and there was really no attempt. It literally just went right in. So I think what I'm going to do on this one, right, I want to make sure that that pin is driven as far forward as possible. So I'm going to put another one of those larger shims, and I'm going to put another smaller shim. And I may actually take this out and take the pin back out and put another shim on that bottom edge. I'll see if this is actually going to work. So take the pin, find the hole, which is right there. This actually might be too thick now. And then again, maybe not, because I think it just went in. Alright, so this is where I'm going to have to push down on that shim in order to get that pin all the way through, which it literally just did it. So, and now when I check that, there's really no play, where in this one there is play. So I know right away I'm going to pop this locker out. I'm going to pop that pin out. I should have checked for play before I did this, but the pin needs to go right there. I'm going to take this last shim that I've got. Actually, I got two more shims. So I'm going to throw that shim in. I'm going to throw that shim in. Now I'm going to attempt to take the pin and drive it home. Which may be a bear. Then again, maybe not. I think it literally just went in. It did. Alright, so this is where that scenario is, where you need to push down on that stack in order to get this to go all the way through, which, right, like, there we go. Oh, pushed it actually. I pushed it too far through. But you get the idea. You have to, now I gotta rotate it all the way the other way. You just have to make sure that this pin is pushed out as far as it can go. So I'm just gonna attempt to get that pin through that washer stack again. So I'll do this again. This time what I'll do is I'll put the screwdriver in the way so I can push that through. There we go. See how you can see that pin in there? Okay. And you don't have to worry about tightness. Tightness is actually what you want right now. Now I'm going to take that locker, drop that in, spin it until the locker actually drops. Boom. Now there is a gasket on here. And to keep this even tighter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this gasket off. And I want to see if I pull this gasket off. What I want to do is now I want to align that. Make sure my pin is centered. Basically, I just want to fold it over. And then I use my pick and make sure I'm aligned with those holes. With these ones, with these lockers, it's the flat side, the long flat side. That's where the holes are. So now what I'm going to do, put my screws in. And just to the point of where I'm just applying a little bit of pressure to it. Same thing on this side. Because I'm not interested in warping anything. The movement is so minimal. It's probably movement that you kind of would expect to have. Too tight, and things probably just wouldn't go together. So, all right. So now what I'm going to do is just go in a cross pattern. Just make sure that this diff is completely buttoned up. The only thing I'm thinking that may need to happen, which is kind of sad, is I don't have any shims right now for shifting this over. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble this dry, because what I want to do is I want to see what this feels like dry. So these are the bearings that, yeah, these are the bearings from the Mojave. So I'm not going to install those, but I will install these bearings right here, because these are the ones from the EXB. These are the ones that are a more sealed bearing versus a shielded bearing. See, that's a shield. This is sealed. So, and I'll go ahead and just drop that in. Now this is where lubrication would happen, but I'm not using lubrication right now. Gonna get the bearing for the outer. So we got the outer bearing and you got the inner bearing. And now what I want to do is take my, this is the EXB pinion versus the Mojave pinion. So you can see it's the same thing, just the surface coverage between the two, the EXB, which is this one, is deeper into the gear. See how you can see that stepped? See how you can see the step? So now I can go ahead and install this. Now this is where I do actually want to put a little bit of lubrication. There's no O-rings or anything that go with this, but I do want to put just a little bit of lubrication just on there first, just as a pre-install, because that's kind of going to be a permanent thing. Because what I'll end up doing is I'll take this, which I believe this is EXB, and I'll take this and I'll stick this on just to keep the pinion in place. The GoPro, they are known to overheat, especially when you're doing 4K. So I usually use like, I just call it an assembly lube whenever I'm doing like surfaces like this. So it just feels like it gives me peace of mind. So I'm going to drop that right inside. Just drop it into place. And I'm going to push the bearing out of the other side. Then I'm going to reinstall it the way it should be. Alright, don't forget this actually does have a flat section. So I will be taking this. And for now, I'm just going to install it as is. If I have to add a shim, I can add a shim. But I want to take the set screw. I'm going to install my set screw, pushing on the pinion inside. And I just want to make sure, whoops. Just want to make sure that I tighten that down. And then just want to give it a feel for play. There actually is the very slightest amount of play, which is fine. The other thing I'm noticing is that there was a little bit of residual of grease in there, but that is actually clean grease, I believe. But what I will do is take a paper towel and I jam it inside that hole. There we go. I'm just going to spin it just to get the stuff out of there. Good to go. I feel satisfied with that. Now, because this is dry, I'm just going to do a dry install right now. No shims, no nothing. There was a shim that was supposed to be on the other side, but I'm just installing this dry for now, just to see how it goes. And it doesn't want to go in. All right. It does go in. It just wants to fight me right now. So it's just not allowing it to go on. It's not allowing it to drop in, which it should just snap right in. Just like that. A little tight. Alright. Now that's actually tight. That's like ultra tight. Something is actually stopping its rotation. Is there a little piece of paper towel stuck on there? I think there was. Alright. Pop that back out. I did install the right gear, right? Yep. Alright. I'm going to give it another install. Let's give it a squeeze in. Something in there. There's something in there. So something I didn't clean. I gotta check that pinion. It should not be locking up like that. What it's doing is it's giving me the impression that something is stuck. And I should have cleaned this gear a little bit better because it actually sounds kind of crunchy. So there actually was a little stone. See on there? See that little white thing? That's a stone. So the gear set probably would have grinded it up, but Can't believe I did that. So I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to brush that nice and clean right now. Just by using this little brush. So that should be better. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to check it here. Boy. Make sure everything's nice and clean, man. I think I didn't check this. Alright. So I'm going to toss it in now. Try it again. Do my little dab of assembly lube down into that hole right there. Just like that. Put this in place. Put the cup back on while holding the pinion in place. Just like that. Slide this diff back in. And that's better. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm checking lash and see how I'm actually getting this to move. That technically, that's kind of too much in this little scale world. What I feel I'd want to do is actually push that more forward. So in order to do that, what I would actually have to do is pop that back out and put a spacer in between. Yeah, I need to put a spacer inside there in order for that to work. But I think I'm actually would have to, actually, you know what? I'm going to try something. I suspect what it is I would need to use a bearing spacer. So I'm going to pop this gear out. I think I would have to put a large bearing spacer because I wouldn't have anything to go onto that gear. I would literally need like a special washer to go onto this portion of the pinion. The other way to do this would be technically to take the bearing and space the bearing away, because the bearing technically needs to be pushed that way. So pop out that bearing, pop out this bearing. What I would do is take the shim that's on here off without destroying it. Place that inside, if it fits, which I don't think it is. It fitting? Yeah, you know what? That ain't gonna work. That is actually not gonna work. Ha 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 ha. See? It's the wrong size bearing. So the only other way would be somehow to slide the diff over that way, but it doesn't seem like it's... There's no room to slide over. Something's binding on this. You hear that? Right there. This is rubbing on something inside there. I wonder if it just wasn't in all the way. Maybe if it was just cocked a little bit. Ah, that's what it was. just wasn't seated all the way. That's still resistant. There's still a certain amount of resistance to that. You would think that that would have a free floating feeling, but it doesn't. That's interesting. So why is that? Why does this diff not have a free-flowing feeling inside of here? Something is rubbing. See what I'm saying? Something's either misaligned or... Oh, wait a minute. No, still. It just doesn't feel smooth. There's definitely God, it's almost like I can literally feel the bearings. All right, well, you kind of get the idea. That's how the locker actually goes in. I'm actually having some issues that are unrelated to... Wait a minute. My brain is spinning. See what happens, your brain spins. So that still feels. It does not feel fluid. When it's like this, it's definitely fluid. But as soon as I put it in that housing, something is making it so that it's not fluid anymore. So yeah, you can see, again, over my shoulder right there, the vehicle is done. But there was a couple of other things that needed to be squared away. And you'll see in part 2, which basically part 2 is, I'm basically working on part 2, like literally right now. It's still on the computer. All the footage is already complete. Obviously, you can see the car is complete. It's just one of those things where 50 minutes into the video, I think that was good enough. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this episode from RC Guy Garage. Don't forget to just throw a thumbs up or something in there. Share the video. Just subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Just like I always say, just point blank, get out there and just stinking rip it.
Thank you for coming by, and we will see you on the next one.